Wonderful. Perfect.
All right, there we go. Okay, well, I will introduce Amanda here. We will do that. Amanda Carrara is joining us this evening for our free parent education series. This series is brought to us by a grant from, help me, Sarah, Centennial Education Area Foundation.
Centennial Area Education Foundation. I was mixed up
Foundation, it's a
in the
mouthful.
middle. So CAEF is
And Amanda
acronym.
is a conscious parenting coach. Is that correct?
That is
Amanda?
correct. Yes.
All right. Well, hopefully, Amanda, you can introduce yourself just a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll be ready to roll. We're so excited to have you. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes. Thank you so much to the whole district and group for having me and bringing me on. I am going to go here to a slideshow. So if you see my eyes shifting strange, it's because I'm looking at a screen beside me so I can see faces. So I will start with introducing myself. My name is Amanda Carrara. My background is early childhood education. I taught kindergarten for several years in the Spring Lake Park district. And then I stayed home to help my littles. Julia is now 13 and Elsa is 11. And during that time, I went back to get my master's in K-12 reading instruction. And then I went back to teaching. Second and third grade intervention. And then I stayed home when I had David, who is almost 5. I switched the slide for him today because he likes to say that he is 5. And then most recently, my family and I just relocated back from Costa Rica. We were there for 3 years. And during that time, I became a positive discipline parent educator and a conscious parenting coach. And we will talk about what conscious parenting is the whole session. It's kind of what this is about. I do call this connection first. And it's kind of interchangeable with this idea of what is conscious parenting. So I'm going to start us off how I start all of my sessions with my clients and my groups with a brief meditation and intention setting. And that may feel weird for you. I'm not sure, but I'm going to explain why I do it. So meditating is scientifically proven to change the neurons in our brains. And so if you look at like a Buddhist brain, it is different than a commoner because they have worked on all of those pathways to bring calm and peace and pause into their life. And so I work on myself and with clients to practice pausing in parenting between like the trigger of what happens with a student or your own child and our reaction. So you can see how important a pause would be. And then intention setting, also, I've got a reason behind it. There's a quote that says, where our thoughts go, our actions follow. So I have the practice of every morning setting an intention of what do I want my day to look like? How do I want my interactions with my family, my friends, and my kids to look like? And it's kind of like confirmation bias. You know, if you wake up and you're like, oh, it's a bad day. Everything that happens confirms, oh, it's a bad day. So we're trying to do the opposite. So I'm going to guide you through both of these. And then I will share the agenda and we'll do some introductions. So if you're comfortable, I would like for you to close your eyes. If that feels too strange for you, just shift your gaze down, kind of take the sensory out and kind of look at one spot a little bit lower, whatever you feel comfortable with. And I would like you to take some deep breaths. And I want you just to notice what the breath feels like in your body, like your shoulders rise and fall. What's your stomach and your abdomen doing? So just take a moment to connect quietly internally. And when you have thoughts come into your mind's eye, just recognize them, kind of let them float by, just like a cloud on a windy day. Not judging the thoughts or examining them. And then reconnect with your breath, noticing what your body is doing, what it does every day for you without you putting any effort into it. And I'm going to walk you through a breathing activity. This is called 4-7-9 breathing. And what we're going to do is breathe in for a count of 4 and hold for 7 and then exhale for 9. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to have you do that again by yourself. Breathing in for 4, holding at the top for 7, and deep exhale for 9. And please do that one more time by yourself. And then again, just notice how your body is feeling. And we're going to take this moment to set our intention. So setting an intention for your session. What do you need from this? What would feel most supportive to you in just a word or a phrase? Do you need a reset? Did you come to gain knowledge? Do you just need some calm in the middle of your day? What is your intention that you can carry on through the rest of our workshop? And I want you to visualize that word in your mind's eye, maybe even writing it in your mind. What does the font look like? What color is it? And then holding that intention in your heart and in your mind and remembering it. So we're going to share it in a moment. And the last thing I'd like you to do before you open your eyes is to pick a color, any color. And then slowly begin to open your eyes or raise your gaze. And I want you to scan the room slowly, being gentle with your transition, and look for that color, just noticing it. So what we're doing now is we're bringing that inner peace and calm to reality. We're bringing it out. We're integrating the work that we just did. And we're being gentle on ourselves. So I'm going to show you our agenda. If you're anything like me, you like to know what's coming. There'll be certain times where I'll ask for questions between a couple slides. If you have one, please write it down or text yourself or put it in the chat, so I don't want to miss any. So we're going to start with introductions of who's in the room here. I'm going to answer the question, what is conscious parenting? Then we're going to go into what I call the iceberg of behaviors. So what and why are our kids misbehaving? We'll talk about the 6 basic freedoms that I think everyone innately should get, no matter what age you are. I'm going to talk about why is this called connection first. We're really going to get practical and what tools can we use to help support the two agenda items above that one. And then I'm going to share a real life example that I think everyone can relate to. And then we'll do questions again to check out. So I would love to hear from you and who is in this space. If you would be willing to share your names, kids, and ages, and what was your intention for our session today. So whoever would like to unmute themselves and share first, I would love to hear from you.
Well, I can start. And it looks like we have a few people trying to pop in and out of the meeting. So we'll keep an eye on that. We might miss some introductions. But I'm Sarah Holmbo. I work for the Centennial School District in early childhood. I do not have kids yet, but on the way, I'm expecting my first this December, which is exciting. And my intention for tonight, I think I just like the word like refocus. I think there's just been so much going on that it's exciting to kind of come back and refocus in on this work that we do. So yeah, that's what I'm here for. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, and congratulations.
Thank you.
I can go next. I am Sarah Eisen, and I also work in early childhood for Centennial Schools. And I have two children. Afton is my daughter, and she is 9, and Jack is my son, and he is 12. So we're in the thick of it. And my intention was slow down. I think things have ramped up really quickly, kind of after we were able to slow down a little bit, maybe with COVID. And I just want to slow down with them. Like they're 9 and 12. They're soon going to be 10 and 13 in a matter of weeks. And I just want to slow down with them.
Yes, thank you. I can relate to that. And the ages of your kids are similar to mine. Yes, thank you. Who will go next for us?
I can go next. I'm Heather Watson. I'm the Kids Club Assistant Coordinator and Inclusion Specialist for Centennial Schools. And I do not have any children of my own. And my intention this evening is to gain knowledge.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, guys. This is Deb Feckman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So I'm the one that couldn't get her microphone working on my camera. So, and it looks like everything's set up correctly. It's just not working. So I'm not sure what's going on. But I've called in and I'm not sure if I caught the question, but I'm Deb Feckman. I'm a site manager for a before and after school program at Centennial Elementary. I've been doing it for about 5 years. I retired from the corporate world, and I guess my intention is to also gain knowledge with this session.
All right. Thank you, Deb, and for your persistence to join us. I appreciate that.
I know. I've tried everything. It's like, oh my gosh, I give up.
Yes, thank you, Deb.
Yep.
And Rochelle, are you able to talk? No problem if you can't.
Yes, I am. If you can hear me, is that all?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'll go with the flow too. I am Rochelle, and I am also a site manager for Centennial School District with Kids Club. So this is my 8th year working with pre-K to 5th grade. But yeah, just getting knowledge and kind of reset. All those words you used were amazing. Yeah. So all of those and a new fresh perspective is definitely always wanted. So
beautiful. Thank you for being here. And thank you for everyone. I know that when you say yes to something like this, you're saying no or not now to something else. And I honor that. So we're going to move on here to our next slide. What is conscious parenting? And conscious parenting is I'm going to close my window. It sounds like someone is cutting the grass or something. I don't know if you can hear that. There we go. So what I do is parent-centric. So I was in the classroom for years. I love kids. We can really make a shift with adults, right? Because kids are designed to model and to emulate us. So conscious parenting and teaching, we'll see how good I am on the fly. I'll see if I can shift this a little bit to teachers too. It's looking inside of us first. So really, we can only control our actions, right? If we could control our kids, life would be really easy. We would do that. That is not possible. So we're looking inside of ourselves first, wondering, like, why did that bother me? I wonder, if that was something that I was allowed to do as a kid. It's also being reflective and in processing, the past, and getting curious about where you want your kids to go in the future. So I always say I parent with the end in mind. I know that's a teaching thing as well. Same thing. So I want my children to be independent, um, self-capable children, happy and well-rounded and balanced when they're older. So what do I need to do now to help cultivate that then? This is their practice ground. Conscious parenting is also viewing your child as separate from you. So this is sometimes really tricky for parents because we're so intimate with our kids. And even in the classroom, right? We grow to know the ins and outs of each child, and there's sometimes this enmeshment and a projection. So conscious parenting is realizing I am separate. I have my own feelings, needs, thoughts, and beliefs, and so does my child. And so when we're interacting, I'm going to recognize my experience and theirs, which are different. They are not the same. And when you do that, you actually gain a layer of connection. You grow in intimacy because the child is feeling heard, seen, and understood in their experience rather than it being a reflection of yours. So, child is separate. It's understanding we can't control our kids. What can we do? We can coach, we can model, we can train, we can guide, we can nurture, we can do a million things, but at the end of the day, they're separate and we can't control them. So we're also aware of our circumstances. So this is like what I already shared. It's looking backward and looking forward at the same time. And then a huge piece of conscious parenting is practicing self-regulation. What do I mean by that? That means when the child does something that bothers me and I'm triggered, I'm noticing what's happening in my body and I'm controlling me. I'm taking care of myself. I'm calming my nervous system. And there's lots of ways to do that. In my practice I call it you have to discover your calming access tool. So what helps you bring down your level? Like if you think of a thermometer and you notice you're going up, what helps bring yours down? Do you need to take some deep breaths? You can do the 4-7-9. Do you need to just place a hand on your heart and say, okay, I can make it through. I'm doing the best I can now. Do you need to go for a run? A really practical thing, and it's scientifically based, is have a sip of water. It's like stimulating your senses in a new way. Smelling something, bringing in your senses is a really great way to regulate yourself. And then once we know ours, we get curious about our kids' calming access tools as well. What can we offer them? Because today you're early childhood, so I'm focusing on 0 to 7. And something happens in the brain around 7 to 8. It's not like a light switch. It's not automatic, and it depends on the security and attachment that children have to their caregivers. But between the ages of 0 and 7, the child's brain is underdeveloped, and they live back here in this lower stem, this reptile part of their brain. They are incapable of regulating themselves through a tantrum and a meltdown. They cannot do it. You may be saying, wait, I have a 6-year-old and I see them calming down. They are modeling, they're mirroring you. And that's what co-regulation is. So first I regulate myself, and then our child co-regulates. We do it together by me soothing them. And there's this beautiful thing called mirror neurons. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. But you can look up videos of infants They mimic the facial expression of their caregiver. We're designed to copy people. Maybe you even have a best friend and you use the same hand signals, mannerisms as them because you talk to them all the time. That's mirror neurons. So children under the age of 7 cannot get through this, a meltdown or a hard time, without borrowing our calm and security. So that is a huge piece of conscious parenting. I'm going to pause and see if anyone has any questions before we jump to the next slide.
Amanda, I just had a quick question. So one of the things that I struggle with as a parent a lot of the time is I feel, and you touched on this a little bit, my kids are a reflection of me. And it's such a personal thing. And my kids are my most personal thing I have, right? And I just feel like if there's something that's going on or a mistake that was made or, tough behaviors, that's a reflection of me and my parenting. And how do you work through those types of feelings as a parent?
Yes, that is a great question. Thank you. I hear you asking, like your kids are so intimate and so special for you. And so when things happen, it is a reflection of you. And what I'm curious about, and we don't have time to like dive into it, but I'd love for you to do a little homework if you're willing, to think of what would be your like top 3 family values. The top 3 traits that is really important for you to instill in your children. And then when we have that data, so mine could be like connection, balance, and we serve one another. I'm just giving you examples of mine. When I have that information, and then I realize, okay, my kids are so special, so intimate, they are separate from me. My role as a mama is to help them grow into who they want to be, who they are uniquely made to be. And so what I do is I say, am I doing what I need to do to instill these 3 things? And then along with that, what's developmentally appropriate for them? Because a lot of times, for me personally, I get stuck in the minutia of what culture and society tells me my kids should look like and act like. And so that's why I bring my values in. The values root me in my parenting so that I am not taking on this shame and guilt for my kids, either just being kids or developmentally, this is necessary for them. And we'll talk in another slide about our kids have the freedom to struggle, and that's really hard, and that's kind of connected to this. So it happens in the reflective process, and that when I go to bed at night, I can say, okay, I did these things, this happened, I honor the journey my child is in. And you have to give yourself like self-love and self-compassion too, right? That's why it starts within us. So I don't know if that answered
Thank you. Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. And I think the cultural pressure, I think sometimes is part of the contributing factors to that is, are my kids in enough activities? Did they read enough? Did they eat right? Did we heat up their leftovers in plastic today? So
Yes.
it's just a lot. And so trying to give yourself some self-love and realize that because you care about that, chances are you're doing a good job.
Absolutely. Yes. I hear all of that. Yeah. Any other questions before we go to the next slide? Okay, so our next one, so this is kind of the broad picture of kind of the arrow where we're going. And we're going to take lots of little micro steps along the way. And the next one would be to get really curious about why kids are misbehaving. You will notice that every time I say that, I'm going to put it in quotation marks because contrary to societal belief, I don't think kids misbehave. I believe that all behavior is our best attempt to get our needs met. This goes for my spouse, for my 5-year-old, and my 13-year-old, and myself. Okay, so before I jump into this iceberg, the 3 reasons that kids are misbehaving is 1 that we'll go into, there's unmet needs. 2 is they're not sure of the why behind the boundary that we've given them. Okay, and power over parenting would say, because I said so. Okay, but I want to cultivate kids that are curious. I want to cultivate kids that want to know the depth of what they're doing, and it's intrinsically motivated. So I want to give them the why. The why in my home are the family values that we just briefly talked about. That is a whole other workshop. And then the third reason that kids could be, in quotation marks, misbehaving is because they're not capable to close the stress cycle. So they, like we talked about with that regulation, they need us to help them close the cycle. Do they need connection? Do they need affection? Are they needing to run outside and jump on the trampoline? Did they have a really hard day at school and they just need to snuggle in? Did they fight with me? And I need to connect the divide on that because they don't feel comfortable in their secure relationship with me in this moment. Okay, so those are the 3 reasons. Today in this session, we're digging into our unmet needs. So at the top, we have behaviors. And let's use an example from the playground. So we have a 4-year-old little girl. She goes down the slide. She's going too fast. She, hurts her bottom and knocks her back on the slide at the bottom. Okay. So you saw her. You know she's not hurt. Okay. And what she is doing is crying. She's crying in your mind too much. Okay. So this is like choice. You have a choice here. And I always encourage people to choose the proactive approach, because if we don't acknowledge what's happening below the surface for her, we're just stuffing it lower and lower, and it's going to come out. It's going to come out at bath time. It's going to come out the next day at school. We can't avoid the experience that our children are having. So this is what I would do. I would acknowledge her feelings and needs. So I'm going to her. I'm getting low. I'm going slow. Oh, you are so sad. I saw what happened. You hurt your back. What do you need? So I am deciding that I'm not going to just be like, you're fine. It didn't hurt. I saw you. I'm going to join her experience. I'm going to verbalize it for her, because if I do this over and over and over again, all of a sudden I have an adult that can say what their feelings and needs are. And by the way, my little tangent, emotions happen automatically, physiologically in our body. So I have adults that say, I don't have emotions and feelings. And that is scientifically inaccurate. So that's probably because we've stuffed them so long. And the same thing with kids. What does that look like? It looks like raging or disassociating, right? Like, I'm going to go hide in my room because this experience is way too much for me. So we're starting the modeling early. With these young kids, that's probably all that I would touch, unless this little girl says, I can't do anything right? So then I'm dipping into her thoughts and beliefs. Oh, love, you feel frustrated. You feel like you can't do anything right. Do you notice I'm just reflecting her words? She doesn't need me to say anything different. She wants to be seen, heard, and understood. And you could give her an example of where you did see something right, but 90% of the time, just you reflecting back, being present in your body and showing up for them is going to help her to just jump up and run away, because she doesn't have to escalate because you heard her, you paused for her. And the same thing happens with us, right? So I'm a teacher on the playground. this is my one break from my kids. I want to talk to the co-teacher about her weekend. I don't want to go over to Sally at the bottom of the steps. But if I do, then hopefully when Sally goes back into the classroom, she's ready. That's what I mean by proactive. Like, you're going to address it at some point. Choose to do the positive while it's a smaller incident. Questions on this slide? Great. Yes? Good. Okay. Super. Let's move on to this. I'm going to move on to the 6 freedoms that we can offer our children. And when I offer them these 6 things that I think are an innate gift that I want every human to have, they have that autonomy and control over their body, and they're much more likely to cooperate and to collaborate at different parts of the day if I'm not always squelching what feels like an innate freedom. So the freedom to feel. We've talked about that one already today. So you have your own experience. So she feels like she's sad. That is true. Okay. So even though I'm feeling differently, her experience is real for her in the moment. So we're going to gift children the freedom to feel and honoring that if I do that, I am speaking like to the depths of who they are. And I promise you, they move through things faster. I don't know if this feels like something more to do. It really is supportive in moving through your day. Offering children the freedom to contribute. Give your kids chores. Do it, please. They want to feel like they are part of your world. So we just talked about the needs. A need that every human has is for belonging. How do we cultivate belonging? By offering them a chance to contribute in your classroom, in your home. The freedom to speak. So I want my kids to leave my home being able to verbalize their opinion and to offer critical, positive things that are counter to the group that they're in. The only way that I'm going to do that is if I let them do it in my home. This is super hard for parents, I imagine for teachers, because they're going to say things that we don't like, but this is their training ground. So, we have values. So service and caring go along with it. So we're not like being disrespectful. It's not like anything you say goes. But in my home, my 13-year-old knows she can have a different opinion than I, and I will listen and I will value it and I'll get curious and I learn from her every day with that mindset. Children have the freedom to struggle. Okay, this is really hard for some of us. We don't want to see our kids struggle, either in the classroom or at home. But when I rescue them, I'm not allowing them to feel the natural consequence. And I'm going to give you a super basic example here that I'm going to use my 13-year-old again. She forgets her viola at school. Okay, I'm not going back to get it. You don't get to practice tonight. Now, if she had a concert the next day and she was stressed about it, I would go back. Okay, so there's just like this negotiating. Nothing is black and white. So it's not like my kids have to struggle. I'm never going to rescue them. It's much more intentional than that. It's like, is this a safe place for me to allow the natural consequence of it to occur? Like my son David left his bike at a friend's house. We're not getting it right now. It's dark and it's cold. Hopefully it's outside still tomorrow, right? I don't want it stolen either. But it's just this dance that we do with our kids with the struggle piece. The next one is the freedom to nourish. And when I say nourish, I haven't been able to think of a better word. And I ask every group I do this to. So please share if one pops into your mind. I am speaking about their whole body and listening to the signals in their bodies that tell them when they need to go to the bathroom, how much they need to eat, like at a certain age, how often they're taking a bath. It's this whole self care piece. So the quality of their room when they get older. So I'll use food because it's a really concrete example. I get to pick what I bring in my home. I get to pick what goes on the table. But I am not going to pick the amount because my 5-year-old is capable to learn the hunger and the full signals of his body, and I want him to. So I'm offering healthy choices. I'm putting it in front of him. I could say you need to have some of everything. But I actually have him scoop himself because he is more than capable of doing that. So that's what I mean by nourish. And then the last one, and this is for adults too, you have the freedom to play. So play, as you all know, my early childhood people, is the language of children. It's the world of children. And when I have parents, I encourage them to let your kids get bored. That's when the imagination spikes. It's uncomfortable to let them get bored. It's a lot easier for you to sit down and play or for you to hand them an iPad. But if we give them that tension, that struggle, they're going to tap into some imagination. And I absolutely say no to playing with my kid when I don't want to. Because when I do want to, which is on the next slide, it's a really powerful connective moment for us. And when I don't want to, I'm only half there and I'm just like entertaining them. Instead, I want to train and teach up my child how to play because it's a gift for them. And I don't want to take that away. So I am going to ask some questions of you from this slide. Which one is hardest for you or surprised you the most when I was explaining it or when you saw it pop up?
The struggle is the hardest thing by far for me. I have to check myself every single day that I am not trying to clear all of the barriers for my kids. So this childhood of theirs is the most smooth and wonderfully, beautifully happy, successful, curated childhood they've ever seen.
Yes.
And I have to check myself that I don't try to remove those barriers at every moment's turn because I need them to know how to figure that out. So that is a huge thing for me that I find I want to help everybody. I want to be there for everybody. And my kids are the top of my list.
Yeah.
But sometimes that means that I have to pull myself back because they have to figure it out. But that one I struggle with. I struggle with that one.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what does that feel like, even when you heard me talking about it and when you were sharing with me? What does that feel in your body to imagine allowing your kids to struggle?
I can feel the anxiety rising for myself because I want them to be as successful as humanly possible. And sometimes that means I have to step back. But for me, that's really hard. I just feel panicked a little bit, like I'm not doing a good job or that I am not doing everything I can to be there for them. That's kind of my codependent personality a little bit of wanting to be there for everyone and try to fix everything. I'm a fixer. I'm a problem solver. At work, I'm that way. At home, I'm that way. But I can't be all the time. So
What would you be willing to hear like an offering of advice?
yeah, 100%. That's why we're here.
Okay, I always ask. I do not just dole out. So I'm curious if you'd be willing to try the next time you see an example where you remember this conversation that we're having, instead of doing the fix it, if you'd be willing to try to just stay present and be there with them.
Mhm.
You could even, from the iceberg, reflect a feeling and a need that you're noticing from them
Mhm.
and just sit in that tension. You could ask probing questions if you're trying to be a fix it, but I'm wondering if they, can take some ownership for it as well. But what I would leave you with, I know I kind of gave 3 things, is in the moment, stay present in the struggle instead of doing the fix it. Just pause and get
I
curious.
will. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, the kids will ask me for homework help, not my husband, because my husband will not remove the barriers,
Yes.
but I will. And so they're like, "Mom's helping us with homework." And I'm like, "Why do they always ask me?" And my husband's like, "Because you remove every barrier for them. I don't." And so of course they ask you. I'm like, "Okay, yep, you're right." So
Yeah,
it's definitely that. So yes, thank you for that.
absolutely. And thank you for sharing with us. Appreciate it. Who else has one that jumped out that was surprising for them?
I was just gonna say, Sarah, thank you for sharing that. That's one thing that I am trying to be very conscious of heading into motherhood as well. I don't know if this one was surprising to me, but I always really appreciate when it gets brought up is the freedom to speak. I love when I talk with parents about those more challenging students and kiddos that are like always asking why and always kind of pushing the boundaries. And I always like to remind them, like, one day that will serve them well. Right now it's frustrating, but like you said, Amanda, when we have a teenager who's suddenly asking, like, well, why is my friend peer pressuring me to do this? Like, what's the why there? That's what we hope, is that they're not going to just say, okay, well, so-and-so told me to do this, I guess I'll do it. It's like, no, we want them to question that and kind of say, why? And does that align with like what I feel is right and all of that? So I feel like, at this age, it's hard when kids kind of push those boundaries and go like, but why? And the more we can sort of, I don't know, be prepared to help them navigate that, the better. So I just appreciate that, because I think that's can be a challenging one when we're like, just because I said so. And it's like, well, you don't want them necessarily doing something later on in life just because someone says so. So it's interesting as they get older.
Yes. You see the value in building that skill along the way, I'm hearing. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else would like to before we move on? Okay, super. Oh, yes, no, okay. So why is this called connection first? How do we do this? What can we practically do with our kids? My company is also called Cultivating Connections, because I believe, and I've seen it time and time and time again, that we can get those results and those behaviors from our kids that we really want, like collaboration, cooperation, calm, fun, enjoyment. We can have pleasure in our kids if it starts with connection. And so, what are some really practical, simple, small things that we can do to start with the connection? Okay, I just told you let your kids be bored and play. And I told you this was coming. So, you can play with your kids to connect. Okay, it's both and, which I love about conscious parenting and conscious living. It's not black and white, it's both and. So, there are times when I want my child to play by themselves and get bored and use their imagination. And when I'm feeling like it, I play with my kids and I do things I enjoy with them, because they can feel that in their bones when I'm enjoying them, when I'm delighting in them. So when my 5-year-old says, Mom, will you play Hot Wheel cars with me? I 100% of the time say no. And he keeps asking. Bless him. He keeps asking. I say no, I don't like it. I do tons of other things with him when I feel it, right? And parents always ask me, how often do you play with your kids? I will tell you, I intentionally play with my 5-year-old 3 times a week for 20 minutes. That's it. That's it. Now, I take walks with him. We go to the park. We do things we enjoy all of the time. But I actually call it magic time, and it's his time. I have no phone even close in my possession. I actually have him go to Alexa and start the timer, and I am fully enthralled with him. I am filling up his cup with something I enjoy. I challenge every parent to think of at least 2 shared activities that you enjoy with each of your children. And as they grow and change, make sure you're reflecting. Like, it's about every 6 months. And so with my son, right now we're really into Play-Doh and jumping on the trampoline. With my 11-year-old daughter, we cook together, which I don't like to do alone, but I love to do it with her. And we cook together and we are reading the same book. And then with my 13-year-old, she's on the swim team, which I was too. So we talk about swim team, and she talks about friendship relationships all the time, which I enjoy being a listening ear. So as the kids grow and change, think of a shared interest. It's like a bridge between your relationship that's really accessible to walk on. Another thing that's easy, simple, is just listen to your kids. Okay, so we're teachers. We love to use teachable moments. Can you just pause and listen? There is magic in silence. Try it. It's magic. If you feel like you have to do something, reflect back exactly what they said, which I gave you the example earlier. You can take it a next step and empathize with their experience. Really step into their world and imagine, make it like an empathetic guess of what they could be experiencing. My favorite one on this list is actually touch points. And what I mean by this is think about the times in your day that you are already interacting with your kids and make them worth it. So same thing I did with play. During these touch points, I have no phone, no distraction. I'm looking at them. I'm gazing at my kids. Let me give you an example before I keep rambling on. Brushing a toddler's teeth. Okay, that's for me. It's so small. Touch points, brushing their teeth. I can sing with him. I can ask him about his day. I can tell him a story about when I was a kid. This moment has to happen no matter what. My toddler needs me to brush his teeth. I can make it a touch point. I can make it a meaningful moment. It's already happening in my day. In my home, I have 3 touch points, and I do it with all of my kids. It's the first time I see them in the morning, when I come home from school, and when they go to bed. For 3 minutes, 3 times a day, I am all theirs, full presence. And so if nothing else happened that day, when I lay my head down at night, I can take a deep breath. I can. I'm like, because I fully showed up, right? I don't want to 50% be there all day long, because most of the time I'm 50%. I see them a million other times, but I want there to be these sacred moments where if there's something they need to share with me, they're going to, because they can sense it in my whole energy that mama is here for me right now. And then physical touch. Okay, so 0 to 7, I think it comes a little bit more natural, and that's the group we're working with, but keep extending it. You know, when they walk by, just brush their arm. When you walk in the room into the kitchen, just tap them on the shoulder. There are chemicals that actually release into our bodies when we physically touch with someone else that feels safe to us, that brings down our stress levels, the cortisol, and brings up the enjoyment, the peaceful hormone. So bring in some more physical touch into your day. Any thoughts, questions, or reflections on these ideas? Okay, beautiful. You're a great audience. I must be just hitting every single thing that you could think of. Okay, so I want to get into real life. So I'm going to use an example that I think every parent of a child has experienced, and this would be a tantrum at Target. And so I'm going to run through a scenario and I'm going to pull pieces together of all of the things that I said to you to show you what this can look like. And I want to tell you that you may hear my example and think that lady is crazy. That is not possible. And I want to tell you it is. Okay, but it doesn't happen overnight. So it happens by these small shifts. It happens by you taking one thing that you heard today that resonated with you and applying it again and again and building upon it. Okay, so here we go. Let's get juicy. We have got a 3-year-old tantruming at Target. Mom is in the checkout and the child is so upset that you didn't get the right kind of cereal. Okay. So in your head, this makes no sense whatsoever. This is the cereal you love. You ate it all last week. Okay. There's all these layers. And to top it off, you're in public. And so you're uncomfortable. You are aware that people are watching you. And so you desperately just want it to stop. Okay. And you would love to bribe with some candy. You'd love to manipulate, like grab their arm and do it now, or you get no screen time tonight. You would love to do that because you're so uncomfortable. But conscious parenting is starting inside of us first. So the first thing I'm going to do is regulate myself. I am going to take a deep breath. I always put my hand on my heart. I don't know if other people do that or not. I'm going to remind myself that I have a 3-year-old and tantrums are normal, that they are doing what their body is telling them to, that they are not misbehaving to put me in an uncomfortable position. They are doing the best they can with the needs that are met and the experience they've had until this point, which I have helped cultivate for good or for bad. Right? My child needs me. This is what I signed up for when I brought a child into my life, that I will be their safe harbor. So I'm taking a deep breath. I'm going to decide, you know what? Most of these people are other moms who have kids. They probably can relate. I'm going to let that societal burden go. And I'm going to show up in my kid's life the way I want to. I'm going to cultivate connections in this really hard moment. So I'm going to get on my child's level. I always get below my kids. And I do that because I think that often in society, we're like vying for control. Like, listen to me because I said so. Whether we say that out loud or not, it's an undercurrent we have. And I don't want to live that way. I am empowered. I know I'm bigger. I know I'm smarter. I know I'm equipped. I don't need to like have this tug of war for power. It's like it's given to me. So I want to help my child. So I'm getting lower than them because I want them to feel like they have some control because obviously they're showing me they're out of control. So I'm going to get low. I'm going to get slow. I've already regulated myself. Maybe I've done a drink of water for a calming access tool. I've done my deep breath, and I'm going to touch my child because physical touch supports them, and I'm going to empathize. You're so disappointed we didn't get that cereal. You thought that cereal would taste so good in your body. It's a no today, and we have to leave. The tantrum is probably going to keep going. It might stop. If you've done this a million times, your child feels safe with you, or they're, not tired and hungry, they might stop just from being heard, or they might keep going. And your job is to stay calm, keep regulated. I'm paying, I'm leaving, I'm supporting my child. I'm holding like this loving container for them, and I'm showing them, even when you have big experience, you're safe with me, because that is what I want them to know at the end of the day. So they could tantrum the whole way to the car. They can tantrum when I'm buckling, and I'm just soothing them. And oftentimes when kids are tantruming or melting down, they want you to match the magnitude of their experience. So I would probably do this outside of the cash register, but you could do it there. Depends how brave you are. You can meet them with their energy. Oh my gosh, you're so frustrated right now. I wish that I could take this away. It's a no. Like, we're not getting the cereal. So I'm holding a boundary. I'm recognizing. I'm doing both simultaneously. Then when we're in the car, I would love it if I could offer them another calming access tool. Soothing music. Maybe there's a stuffy in the car. Maybe I sit back with them and I just rub their arm. Like, I don't have a rush. Like, what? I'm rushing home to put the chicken away. I live 5 minutes away. It's okay. I can take a couple seconds for my kiddo. That's right. It's like just entering this state that this is the most important thing right now. Right. I can be 5 minutes late to the next event because I'm in line with my values and I feel okay about that. I feel anchored. So, or I could drive away and just let my kid ride the wave. And I have done that. I have sat in a car with a tantruming child. And a strategy that you could use is imagine forward. So they're still tantruming. You have calm music on. You've done all the things you can do. I imagine forward for them. Oh, it's going to feel so good to get out of the car. It's going to feel so good to be in our home. I'm going to go get your blanket from your bed. Do you want mama to do trampolining with you when we get home? Like, I'm just supporting them. I'm giving them options. I'm using this safe, calm voice. But oftentimes it doesn't actually go that far when you're empathizing and recognizing. And sometimes it does. If they just need to eat, they're just going to. Hopefully you have a squeezy pouch in your car and you give that to them. But so this is kind of bringing it all together. And I wonder if you have any questions after hearing that example.
Or maybe you don't want to keep hearing from me, but I have two very different children.
Yeah.
One is my oldest child is more of an introvert. He's really cool and calm. If I put him in timeout, he would just lose it when he was little.
Yeah.
Afton is my youngest is an extrovert. She has a lot of big feelings.
Yeah.
When she was little, we lived here. We lived in the meltdowns 3, 5, 8 times a day, depending on how many times I said no to her, was really how many meltdowns we had.
Okay.
And so, but it was interesting when she went to preschool, she did awesome at school. She didn't have the meltdowns. She was fine. The moment we came home, 4:00, 5 minutes after she's in the house with me, we are melting city. And I got a lot of pushback from other people saying, why does she always do that with you? She only does it with you. She doesn't do it with me. She only does it with you. And, and I guess I don't exactly know why that was the case, but for me at that time, I needed to feel like I had something. And for me, what I had said was because she feels safe with me and because she knows I'll love her through it all. And, that is where I'm the person she could fall apart with. And we still she's got big feelings. We've worked through a lot of those things of getting her basic needs met, sleep, food, those kinds of things. But yeah, I mean, it can be a definite challenge. I will say I had one summer that I'm like, I don't know if I can parent this child any longer. Like, I just don't know. But they do grow and they figure some things out. And it is definitely a challenge, but I love this. And I think this can relate to some of the kids where we work with on a daily basis on when we have some meltdowns and things, like what can we do to control that situation? I know, Sarah, you had a little kiddo this summer that you worked with that had a hard time. And I think you did a really good job of empathizing with that child and helping them through that. So I think that is what we can control. So thank you for going through that process. I think that was great.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your personal experience. And I would like to validate what you said. You said, my hope was that I was her safe person. And that is in line with what I would expect as well. Because I imagine that all day, she's being redirected and moved through, and it's just being stuffed down. Whether you have brilliant teachers or not, at the end of the day, you are her secure attachment. You are her safe harbor that we talked about. And it is very, very common that happens. And so I just want to say I hear you and I validate that experience. Any other questions or thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just had a kind of a clarification. So it sounds like kind of through this process that parents have options. Like, I think that sometimes parents feel like, I didn't do it perfectly. I'm the worst. It's never going to happen. So I love that idea of like small things. There might be some days you can sit in the car and take a minute. There might be some days you just drive. There might be some days you lose your cool in Target and totally don't do this process. And so I'm just clarifying, like, yes, that is kind of what I think the vibe that you're saying is like, yes, try your best and it's not going to be perfect every time. But yeah, just wanted to see if any other thoughts about kind of giving ourselves some grace when this doesn't happen.
Yes. So I always say I'm committed to being imperfect. Like, I'm so committed to being imperfect. So every day is a different day. So just like you said, some days all I can do is not bribe and manipulate my kid. Me, still, I've been practicing. I coach people. That's all I can do is stay silent. That's all I'm capable of. And some days I can move them through, and it's this beautiful dance. And neither are wrong. They both are just on this journey, right? It's just both part of my child's story and my story and how we're interacting right now. So I appreciate that you noticed that and said it out loud, because that is a tenet that I do try to carry. Because I know I've said it a couple of times, but I hear from parents so often that when they lay down at night, they get the guilt and the shame and the blame. And I really want to change the story that we're telling ourselves, that there is a perfect way to parent, that there was a perfect way to handle that situation, that one size fits all for all three of my kids. That just is not accurate. And so when we can be gentle with us, and we're always thinking about what's developmentally appropriate. So I have websites that I always give parents, and I say, don't hold your kids to this standard, but get curious about what they are capable of and what they're not capable of at the same time. So be aware of each child's developmental growth, as well as, like you pointed out, Sarah I, that each child has different strengths and weaknesses. So I'm not interacting. It's not one shoe fits all with each kid. And so is it okay if I give an example of this? So for boundaries, my boundaries are connected to our family values. That's the why behind what I'm doing. So I think rules are rigid, right? And they're one size fits all. In our home, we do boundaries connected to family values. So my 5-year-old doesn't get to pick his bedtime. He is not developmentally capable of making those nuanced decisions yet. My 13-year-old absolutely does. And she actually came to me probably about a year ago and said in a family meeting to our whole family, Mom, I would like no bedtime now. And we did this dance and negotiated what that would look like, because she can have a conversation about, she gets herself up, she knows her activity levels, she can get in tune with what her body feels like, if she's sleeping enough or not, if she's getting homework done or not. So there's so many nuances that occur. And I love what you said, Sarah, that we're just taking small steps along the way, and we're just trying, trial and error. And at the end of the day, I feel really good because I showed up and I was present and I tried, because I'm committed to imperfection. I cannot commit to perfection. I'll fail every single day. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. So I'm gonna do a checkout, and then I have an offering for you. So I would love to know how you're feeling. We talk about this a lot. And I would like to challenge you at the same time that fine and good and bad are not actually feelings. They're judgments and statements. So how are you feeling after our session? And then what would be one micro takeaway? So if you're thinking about the Target example and you would love to be able to execute that full package, what I want you to do, so if that would be 100% of the takeaway you'd love, I want you to zoom it all the way down to 10%. So zoom it down to what I said. It could be, I want to offer myself self-regulation. And that's it. Everything else will look the same. Or it could be, I want to be silent and not try to bribe my child. It could, a micro takeaway could be, I want to get curious about what my calming access tool in my child's is. So I would love to hear from you something very small that you know you can execute. And the reason I'm keeping the goal small is because I want you to grow your capacity to trust yourself, to trust your inner self. So when you say something, you can do it. So it can't be too big. So how are you feeling, and what's one micro takeaway?
I can go first. It's fine. I guess I'm feeling free of something, so I don't know if that counts, but I'm feeling more guilt-free. I can explain that for a moment. My daughter needs constant engagement. Well, she feels like she
Yeah.
needs constant engagement. And I tend to be her playmate a lot of the time, especially through COVID, when things were really challenging. And so you saying that I don't have to play with her when I don't want to, I know that that's crazy. That would be something that would stick with me, but uh, just giving her even if during school, it's hard, playing with her a lot, but even the 20 minutes of uninterrupted time, something we both enjoy, like baking together. She loves to play volleyball. I love hitting the volleyball back with her, crafting. There's a lot of things we enjoy doing together, but it's finding those things and really being focused on that. So that was my feeling part.
Yes.
And my micro takeaway was those touch point moments. I naturally have those 3 touch point moments that I do already, but it's really just a quick thing like, good morning, have a great day, or, how was your day? I don't use those moments to their fullest potential. So if I could really use those 3 moments that I already have and use them on a deeper level, I think that would really be great. So those are things that I think that are my little takeaways so far.
Yes. Thank you for sharing. Free's a great feeling. Who is next?
I can go next as well. I've been feeling like weirdly kind of excited and hopeful. I think heading into parenthood, there's a lot of anxieties and worries, but I think whenever I hear a really great speaker about a topic that I'm like, okay, I can do this. Yeah, I got this. Like I can take this information. So I think I'm just feeling excited about this new relationship I'll be building with my child and what that looks like. I think one thing I'm really, really trying to be mindful of is that, kind of like we said, Sarah, is the guilt, like not trying to feel guilty for not being perfect. I know Sarah and I talked a lot about this at work too, of just that mom guilt of balancing work and life and relationships and all of this, and really trying to be mindful of just going to bed every night and not being so guilty about, oh, I didn't do this exactly right, or I should have done more of that, or should have done less of that, and just sort of saying I did what I could for today, and that is the best I could do, and we'll try it again tomorrow. So yes, just kind of giving myself permission to to just have grace with myself, I guess.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Is anyone else able to talk? There is never any pressure from me.
Yeah, Amanda, this is Deb. So I guess I was just thinking through this and thinking about my position and so forth at the Kids Club. I think, what I'm feeling right now is a lot of the things that you touched about is like I kept thinking about, okay, yeah, Deb, you do that and you touch on this a little bit and stuff like that. So I feel that it made me feel good to think that, okay, I am doing some of the things that you had referenced. So that was I think I could go deeper into it, but at least I'm going the right path. As to how I deal with, several different things throughout the day with the kids. I think about one parent said to me one day, about her child coming in. She goes, you're the first face that she sees in the morning, and you're the last face that she sees in the evening. So that's where I want to ensure that I'm doing what I can to make her have the best day ever, right? And then I guess the one micro takeaway is, I think on the other side of it, just in my leadership role as a site manager, is that struggle about letting things be shared with the rest of my staff. Like Deb doesn't have to do everything. So letting things go, and having them do or, learn more about how to take on a behavior or, and that, but yet that be there to support them. So
yes, I hear.
I'll continue with that.
I hear you gifting them the opportunity to contribute, and you asking need simultaneously.
Right.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
This is Heather. I can go next.
Hi, Heather.
I'm feeling refreshed and happy for the future, and just really highlighting that there's magic in the silence and listening to those kids and knowing that you don't always have to have the right words in that moment, and just allowing them to feel their feeling and being there with them in the moment, and just allowing that control when they have no control.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for reflecting that back.
I can share. This is Rochelle. Yeah, kind of I feel confident. I feel there's a lot of things that, you said too, that I feel like I have been doing, or at least trying to do. Definitely like the empathy of, if a kid gets hurt. I mean, I know that's part of our job too, but even if they got hurt or really hurt, you kind of see it, you watch it. They might kind of sit there for a minute, not crying, but then to be like, hey, are you okay? And then usually they say, yep, I'm fine. And they brush off and run away.
Yeah.
Just acknowledging that, like, we saw you, we're paying attention and checking in. So, I mean, I think that part is, I've definitely been trying to be really proactive about that. And then, my takeaway is just, obviously the play as well. I think that's very interesting to even though that's our job as well to play with them, but not as a site manager, we're not always able to.
Yeah.
But then to come back around and like I'll make a mental note like, hey, they asked me to play. So when I do have time or I'm not able to be like, hey, do you want to do a puzzle, or hey, do you want to do this? And then like, oh yeah, like they almost forget that they ask you. So that definitely is a special moment for that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. I think we got everyone. So at this portion of the time, I was going to ask everyone to put their emails in the chat, but it seems like everyone is staff. So I have these 3 like extension offerings that I would like to share. We can do separate emails, or I can send it to Sarah. You can let me know what you would prefer. But I think that these handouts are really supportive of this like taste. It's like dipping your toe in. And so you may have noticed that I talk. I use specific phrasing a lot. And when I first started this practice, my girls who knew me prior were like, Mom, you talk so weird. And they don't say that anymore, but it truly is learning a new language. And so I have a sheet to share with you about sentence starters. And then when we were doing the iceberg, you probably all are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs from your education background, but I have the highest level of needs that are like belonging and esteem in a list, so you can get really curious. Those are the common things that we want to get curious about, because we kind of know like, well, they're hungry or tired. So this is the next level. Like, do they need attention? Are they needing affection? Do they need collaboration? So I have a list of that to share with you. And then this is a really common hot button for parents. And I imagine it's a really easy one for you to shift into your classrooms as well, with conflict. So this document is packed. It's not that pretty because there's lots of text on it, but I'm giving you lots of ways to view it. I view conflict as an opportunity for conflict. I'm sorry, I said it. Conflict for an opportunity for connection. That's why this is called sibling connections. It's the same thing in the classroom. And so it has some mindset things, how we can shift how we view it to help support what's happening, because it's natural and it's going to happen. Some phrases that we can use, some benefits to conflict. So I would love to give you these resources. Should I just send them to one address? Okay.
And you can send them to us, and we can send it out to staff, and then we can also get it out to families that signed up but maybe couldn't attend tonight. So.
That would be beautiful. Thank you so much.
That'd be great.
And then let's stay connected. So these are all the places that you can find me. If you found this at all useful, I would love for you to follow me on Instagram or Facebook or both, and share them with people that you think would be beneficial. I post 3 to 5 times a week with like really practical tips and tricks. Sometimes they're like mindset things for adults, and sometimes they're like this. I did this last week. A really great phrase to use with kids is as soon as this happens, we can do this. And then I describe it. So it's really useful information. And you can email me, and I have a website. I do one-on-one coaching, couples coaching, parenting groups with different topics. And I love to do workshops, I think because I'm a teacher by trade. And so if there's ever another topic, even if you saw one today that we just touched on, I am more than happy to come back and do another workshop. So those are my offerings. And again, I thank you for letting me have this time with you all. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Amanda.